heart racing. At-oneness is a project that explores interventions for restoring community, autonomy, and well-being in neighborhoods that experience the negative impacts of mass incarceration. Over the last 4 months, I've been partnering with community leaders in East New York seeking to address public safety by increasing community well-being. Before we begin, I wanted to share this quote by a respected leader, facilitator, and educator of restorative justice, Kay Pranis. I believe this quote perfectly encapsulates the relationship between crime prevention and community building. A crime indicates that a community's sense of mutual understanding and respect is disintegrating. If we don't explore the underlying reasons for this trend or work to turn things around by building positive connections, we miss a rich opportunity for constructive change and leave the community vulnerable to worse breakdowns. East New York is a district in Brooklyn that has the 5th highest rate of incarceration relative to anywhere across the New York City boroughs, and also directly borders Brownsville, which has a disproportionate rate of jail incarcerations overall. That being said, it is well documented that the same neighborhoods most impacted by mass incarceration are also the neighborhoods that lack adequate schools, housing, mental health and substance use treatment, healthcare, and social services. But when communities have the basic resources they need, there is greater public safety. Community well-being and public safety are essentially two sides of the same coin. In East New York, residents are taking action to address food access and insecurity. Consequences of food insecurity are more prevalent in East New York than New York City overall. Beginning last fall, a team of residents from the Boulevard Public Housing have been developing a youth program to address food insecurity. The program connects a group of youth to various orgs and people who are teaching them about health, nutrition, cooking, and overall well-being. Crime is a complex issue stemming from and perpetuating a lower quality of life. In the case of the Boulevard Team's project, improving health outcomes through food education is a contribution to the overall well-being of their neighborhood. Since January, I've been partnering with this resident team to empower their autonomy in this project by facilitating restorative activities to support personal growth and community building. Over the 12 weeks, I hosted conversations to define values and success, explored purpose through facilitated activities, and engaged the residents in reflection and study of the health landscape of food insecurity in East New York. And as a designer and facilitator of community repair through restorative justice and conflict mediation, inquiries and methods that I'm bringing to this work complement this approach to personal, group, and systemic change. But what is restorative justice? It's a systemic alternative to incarceration that rejects responses of punishment. Similarly, it is an alternative to suspensions in schools. It is a tool for community building, and it's also a worldview that encourages community convening and collaboration when friction arises between community members. As you can see, restorative justice reflects a lot of the core principles of the projects that are happening, such as in East New York. And why am I bringing restorative justice into this? Well, through my own experiences as both a participant and facilitator of restorative practices, I have witnessed and facilitated profound reconciliation. I have felt closeness with strangers, and I've also sat in community circles with formerly incarcerated folks and currently incarcerated folks to talk about what accountability really means. Through this thesis project, I wanted to understand ways that the values of these restorative practices could extend beyond their typical use case. In this project, food insecurity is the focus. However, this framework is meant to be applied to any project seeking to cultivate community well-being. Restorative justice is more than just an alternative to incarceration and suspension. Restorative justice is a set of values and practices that can shape broader culture. So how might we adapt restorative practices to aid in personal and community growth in neighborhoods experiencing disproportionate rates of incarceration? Some things I tried looked like this. When facilitating an activity about the root problems of food insecurity in East New York, I used restorative questions traditionally used for conflict circles. asking about what may be preventing the community from moving towards a healthier future prompted a conversation about barriers, both personal, such as food heritage, and access, which is obviously systemic. Conversations like this help to understand where accountability needs to take place and can help shape research and scoping in earlier phases of projects. We also discussed how we can move towards healing and a healthier future. After showing the team health data of East New York collected by the Department of Health, the team vehemently questioned this data because it didn't reflect their reality. Moments like this underscore the importance of including and supporting communities in matters in research that is meant to represent them. Other activities that I facilitated brought other values of restorative justice to life. Most directly, I held circles which allowed for equitable story sharing and hosted a listening and empathy skill building workshop using my experience and working relationship with the New York Peace Institute and SEEDS Community Resolution Center. Personal development in support of healthy relationships with both self and others cultivates community autonomy. By developing skills learned through restorative practices, communities experiencing the impacts of policing can take more ownership of the well-being and safety of their communities. My first intervention was going to be to just train the residents in circle keeping. However, the way I went about this, making that decision for them instead of deciding together, did not align with the values of this work or what I had intended on teaching. As Karen mentioned earlier, there was reasonable skepticism about my intentions here. I was held accountable, and I was offered an opportunity to begin again with this team. That experience created a lot of meaning for me in this project, because it precisely highlighted the importance of these skills and practices in keeping teams and communities connected during their efforts of social change, even when conflict arises. As we've discussed, both community well-being and public safety require addressing many different facets of social life. Integrating restorative practices offer new ways of confronting the social issue and strengthen the threads that connect people who are working to address root problems of crime and harm. In my evaluations, I discovered that the activities directly drawn from a restorative tradition, such as circles, addressing root problems, and fostering listening and empathy skills, were the most effective for my team. In our circle about defining success and sharing stories, one woman spoke about her experience being a community participant in a past program that the East New York team had designed. She was inspired by this, and she decided to join the team and brought her teenage daughter along with her. Amongst many other ideas we shared, future involvement of community members could be used as a metric of success for this program. This demonstrated that circles have the capability to benefit the technical aspects of these projects along with the community building parts. So what am I offering? At-oneness is a program framework that can be used and reused in many different spaces and projects. To extend this work and make it accessible to others to utilize and facilitate, I have created a platform for research, resources, and guides to share with my partner organization, Neighborhood Safety Initiative, which hosts this resident project along with 15 other resident teams across the boroughs, addressing other facets of community well-being to increase public safety. Here you can find guides for hosting circles, facilitating team reflections, and even handouts for de-escalation. These tools may be used by any community leaders seeking to address root problems of social issues through healing-centered methods. To assist in the implementation, I designed a roadmap based on the Neighborhood Safety Initiative project cycle to recommend times for these interventions and activities to take place. For example, the activity about engaging with root problems would best be done earlier in the project as the direction had been chosen by the teams. Along with materials for additional programming, the values of restorative justice give us new ways of measuring impact. Monitoring personal and interpersonal growth is foundational for driving systemic change towards healthier, more autonomous communities. My vision is for these metrics to be foundational to any and all community-led initiatives and our own personal growth. This reflection is from one of my team members, Tyshawn. I believe it perfectly represents our collective desire to do better for one another and witness the fruits of that loving labor. This resonates with me a lot as a host of this experience and also as a researcher, designer, and leader influenced by restorative traditions and values. Supporting historically silenced communities in shaping their own lives realigns society with values that empower rather than disenfranchise and connects us rather than isolates us. When we use restorative justice to frame this work and influence the way we go about this change, we can see how deeply related the personal is with our culture and with the systems that shape our lives. Frameworks and theories aside, my message is simple, that social change requires each one of us together. Thank you to everyone who is here, to the faculty, my friends and family who showed up, and to my amazing, wonderful, beautiful classmates.